Boundaries, we like them, we need them, but it definitely upsets the people that once benefited from that open door policy to treating us any kind of way. Oh my goodness. Let's talk about it. Well, happy 2026, guys. There has been lots of recaps coming at y'all in these past several weeks. A winter break recap, a Christmas recap, 2 New Year recaps. So y'all have seen, if not all, then most of this past month of my life. Basically all of December, except for a couple days here and there. And then half of January, kind of, sort of. So it's been fun documenting the holiday season and sharing that with you guys. If you've missed any recaps for whatever reason, go do some binge watching and catch up. I've definitely enjoyed my downtime, but I'm now back into the swing of things with my second semester of college, and maybe even next week I'll do like a second semester update, since I'm working my way through the intro phases of class and the syllabus and getting through all of that introductory stuff. But now that I'm getting into like the main meat of these classes, I can share how it's actually going with you guys. So I'm excited. Getting into boundaries, what are they? They are the healthy limits to protect our time, energy, values, emotional well-being. These are not walls meant to necessarily shut people out or off, although sometimes the boundary is removing that person from your life. But it's more so of like a guideline to just clarify what is acceptable and what is not in our lives. Boundaries, they definitely exist in many different forms. I mean, we have emotional boundaries where we protect our emotions, and we also, it prevents us from taking on other people's emotional burdens as our own. Physical boundaries, even personal space, self-respect, time boundaries, not exhausting our time, helping us to prioritize what and who matters in our lives the most. There's also spiritual and moral boundaries to keep us aligned within our personal beliefs and convictions. When boundaries are not in place, we feel drained, we feel resentful and overwhelmed, because we get to this point where we are giving more than we can really sustain and maintain, especially when those we expect to reciprocate don't do so. Boundaries is saying yes honestly to what needs change and structure, while also being able to say no without guilt, regardless of the opinions of others. Because we're all human, and we all have opinions, but some of us humans can be a little bit more opinionated than others. So if you're used to pleasing others, people pleasing and all that, setting boundaries can sometimes be a very hard adjustment to make. This hard adjustment space is a sign of growth, though, because boundaries are meant to bring peace, clarity, and strong relationships, because now these relationships that you have in your life, they're not built on obligation, but they're built on honesty. And as a Christian, from a faith perspective, boundaries are biblical, and it's an act of wisdom. Jesus definitely modeled boundaries, and he stayed true to his purpose. Proverbs 4:23 reminds us to guard our heart, because everything that we do flows from it. And guarding your heart it requires discernment about what and who we allow consistent access to us. God set limits for Adam and Eve, and he distinguished the difference between good and evil in Genesis 2. Galatians 6:5, it speaks to personal responsibilities and emotional boundaries, and that each person is responsible for their own conduct and spiritual growth. In 1 Corinthians 15, it highlights how to keep in check the company that we keep, specifically verse 33. God himself, he also established boundaries for work and rest in Mark chapter 2, verse 27. So these are just some references, and of course there's more, but these support the spiritual benefit and also just the basic principle of boundaries in our lives. So here is how I have set boundaries, and here's how you can set boundaries. Number one, it's good to be clear on your needs, like understanding where you are and how you feel, especially regarding the areas that are draining. You have to identify what you are giving too much of to a certain thing, a certain person, whether that's money, time, effort, energy, and beyond. Self-examination is definitely the first step to assessing the present and even the past sometimes in order to change the future. For example, once I graduated from high school last year, there was a significant drop in the people that I talked to and entertained in life. Some people I just talked to because we just went to the same school together, and that was that. The summer after graduation is definitely evaluation era, where you figure out who's staying, who's leaving, and who's still kind of like in between. There were people that said that they wanted to still be involved in my life beyond high school, as I wanted to do the same for them. I extended myself at times, and after a few quiet threads were only awakened by my initiation and canceled plans and things like that, I stepped back when I understood my place in those people's lives. And it was more solidified that I would focus more on pouring into the people that pour into me and wanted to do so without question and with consistency. Number 2, decide on the boundary before you share it. Make sure that you're clear with yourself about the decision that you've made and or are making. Just don't decide what you will and will not do, but also the actions that you'll take if a certain boundary line is crossed. Some boundaries are no-brainers, like the ones you don't even have to think about. Like, I'm not going to overexert myself if I'm physically beyond my limit. With me having a spinal fusion in recent years and being well recovered from that, like, still I have to consider activities with caution, because I will live with hardware like rods, bolts, screws, and all that in my back and spine for the rest of my life, and I never want to have this surgery again. But sometimes, I do have like an off day where I'm not feeling my best, and so I will have to make that known, like, hey, I'm unavailable. I am not at my high functioning capacity in a way that will allow me to be present in this way. Number 3, communicate simply and honestly without over explaining. Some of my own personal examples, like due to physical caution from a major surgery, I will not be participating in skating. I have not skated in 7 years almost. Due to spiritual beliefs and convictions, I choose not to participate in an activity that is against that, whatever it may be. It's simple, but it's honest, and it's not overpowering. Number 4, we forget this sometimes, but expect pushback. Discomfort, it doesn't mean that you're wrong. People who benefit from the lack of boundaries may resist you when you try to set them to test the limits. For example, a situation that I dealt with within this last year caused me to see the person that I got hurt by in a different way than I ever had before. I forgave this person, I moved on, and I really don't foresee a reconnection. This person was hoping that we could reconnect, so a little pushback, and it was definitely implied in the apologies and whatnot. But for me, my boundary of being cool but not speaking was already set in stone. But some people feel like your forgiveness also requires you to give them access back. So that's one side of it. And then there's others who can press the buttons of, this is only a one-time thing, after you've already stated your boundary, and then it turns into a cycle for you because you got influenced. And this is the part where I say respectfully, I do not regret being sober, never touching alcohol or consuming it, nor using it as a coping mechanism. Having that testimony as a young Christian adult is honorable and something that I am extremely proud of. With that being said, number 5 is enforce the boundary with action and follow through on what you say you will do. Enforcement is about self-respect. It is one thing to know you need a boundary and share those boundaries, but it's another to actually enforce those boundaries when it's needed the most. I respect myself enough to know when I need to stop checking on someone that I was once close to and now lives life like I don't exist. I also respected myself enough to not go back to the friendship where I got hurt. I would honestly rather have no interaction than to have interaction and just keep up conversation just to be like, we're cool. And then the vibe is just different because I see that person in a different light now. And so for me to kind of keep up this bond that just really ain't kicking it no more, for me would be, lying and faking it. And I would also be wasting this other person's time. And also, I respect myself enough to know that I want to be in a godly and beautiful marriage. So I don't entertain those who are in worthless pursuit and don't match the standard. Boundaries, they are important. They keep us from drifting into feeling more, saying more, and doing more than we should. These boundaries that you set are more like proclamations of self-respect and choosing to put yourself in the best physical, mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual, relational, and financial place. seriously. And always remember when setting boundaries that these boundaries are for you and not anybody else. Like, you are the decision maker. You have the decision factor on what these boundaries are. So for 2026, let's set boundaries that put us in a place of peace, joy, and contentment. Boundaries that you not just set, but also uphold. You are one of the best projects that you'll ever work on. So make it good. Cheers to boundaries and less burnout in all areas of our lives. Happy 2026, everyone.